We would like to inform you that whatever discussed in this topic and in this podcast is completely general advice or based on our own personal experience and opinions. If you are facing any financial issues, we do recommend that you seek consultation with a licensed financial planner. Thank you.
What is minimalism all about, and how is it relevant in the area of finance?
Okay, I'll make this as simple as possible. These days, I only carry my phone and my IC. So that is minimalism to me in finance. Welcome back to Smart Women Finance, where we are focused on empowering women through financial awareness. Together with me today is Pauline Teo, a licensed financial planner, and me, myself, Rocking Rachel, an insurance advisor. And we are the go-to girls at Smart Women Finance. And we would love to hear your questions. So do tag us, ask SWF.
So again, back to the topic of minimalism. So how do you actually survive these days without having to bring cash out? How does it make you feel?
I feel it really is very, it's nice because your hands feel a bit more freer, and you can, whenever you're just going out to like a simple store or going to maybe the hypermarket or what, you don't actually need to carry so much of things with you, especially, you have to carry your plastic bags and all this kind of thing. So the lesser that you keep with you, it gives you a more peace of mind because there's lesser things for you to watch out as well. You just need to make sure your phone's always with you. Okay, done, or your these days we have the iPhone 13 with their wallet right behind. So it makes everything so simple, that you just carry that one particular device and you have your credit card and your IC together with you, together with the iPhone, right? So things have become much, much simpler. That is how minimalism has impacted me financially. What about you, Pauline? Have you ever practiced minimalism in finance?
Yes, I would say that minimalism is actually a very interesting concept, right? That we can actually do it on our own, even with finances. And I do agree with you, Rachel, because ever since the pandemic happened, these days I don't even go out, with my handbags and whatnot. It's just a mask and handphone in hand. At least you're one step better than me. You do actually have some, spare change, right, in hand, just in case if some of those vendors or retail that you go to that don't have e-wallet facilities. But generally, I would say this is actually another brilliant way of tracking finances, without having to do much work. So I think in terms of minimalism for me, it's just keeping things very simple. And on top of it, I think with e-wallets today, a lot of my clients actually enjoy the benefits of being able to track where their money goes very powerfully, rather than, the traditional way of trying to record everything on paper and pen or using an app. Sometimes we do have slips as well, right, where the money is really going to. So I would say that this is actually another brilliant way of how we track our money and to keep in tech with our budget that we have in place.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like this is like the modern way of budgeting and tracking your finances.
Exactly. And I think the other powerful thing about e-wallets is that we put in money in those e-wallets respectively, right? So very, very clearly, we're already telling ourselves in our minds, right, some of the benefits of how to budget. Because you can only spend whatever we have in that wallet, right? Without money in the wallet, you can't really spend. So I think being conscious about this also helps us to plan our financials in a more powerful, and in a way is also very meaningful for us because we're actually doing two things at one go, tracking it as well as being very clear how much we can afford to spend when we go out.
Yeah, it's much better than, holding just a credit card in your hand because credit card has a certain limit which you have not pumped in yet. So e-wallets are definitely much safer. And like what you said, like you're automatically doing it. You're already budgeting for yourself. If this is the amount I have in my e-wallet for the month, that's it. When it finishes, I already know I'm crossing a certain limit. So it's a great way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of e-wallet apps today, right? They actually have tracking system for you that you can actually just click of a button, figure out, how much you've actually spent on your groceries or, your bills and utilities. And this will give you a very clear idea as to where your money has gone for the month. So I think
Mm,
in that sense, it really does help you to track your finances much better than before. Because
yeah,
sometimes slip of mind, we do forget things. Okay,
yeah.
but with the e-wallet, everything's documented and you already exactly know where the money has gone, which a lot of clients do have problems. Don't you have that problem as well, when you're tracking your finances?
Yeah, actually, I do, especially when I used to have this problem a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but ever since I went on e-wallets, I have reduced the amount. So wherever I can spend using an e-wallet, I would do it, unless it's really not it's really, like some certain shops in Malaysia by the roadside. No, you really don't have this feature. That's
Yeah,
the only time where I take out my cash now. But other than that, I try to keep it all within the e-wallet or my debit card, so
yeah,
that it's always tracked on my this thing. So it's like, because I only have 24 hours in a day, and most of the time it's being used up maximum. So this is how I
yeah,
can do things, multitask, right?
yeah,
Spend at the same time, track,
yeah,
right? Yeah. So
exactly.
this is what I feel like. And actually some of my clients also have come to me with this concern, like, I would
Mm,
like to improve my tracking.
yeah,
And the thing is, they don't actually realize they're already doing it. So when I highlight, don't you use e-wallet? And like, yeah, I do. Then you're already tracking. So just
yeah,
be mindful of what you're using, right? But coming to the
precisely.
question, Pauline, I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you, with today's day and age, I think in Malaysia we have over 30 e-wallets, if I'm not mistaken,
Plus minus,
companies,
yeah,
right?
about there. Mhm.
How many, I mean, is it advisable in your understanding, to have so many e-wallets under, one person?
Right. Okay. I think to set the context right on e-wallets is that there are general e-wallets, for example, Maybank to You at MAE, okay, or even Touch and Go Boost that are generically available for across many products and services, right? But there are also very specific, like for example, one-way traffic for how you can only use those e-wallets. For example, if you go to certain malls, they may have, the mall cards or petrol
Yeah,
stations, they've got really dedicated e-wallets just for that particular one purpose. That makes it really, really hard for some of us to just own one or two apps in order to track all our money. So I would say that be wise in terms of what kind of e-wallets you really need to keep, because as you diversify your money into different wallets, you tend to also forget, how much money has actually been leaking out of your own savings. So I
yeah,
would say one of the practical ways how I do it is I look into all the apps that I really have and to ask myself which one do I prefer using and which one actually serves a multiple purpose. So it
mm,
could be multifunctional, for example, like why I choose MAE and Touch and Go, it's because I can actually use this one application to pay for, my groceries, to, pay for food online or even in actual premises that actually allows me to do transfer, okay, digital transfer to that wallet immediately, or even shopping online, for example. So this would be another good way for you to decide how many e-wallets you like to keep and what's the purpose of each of these wallets. Yeah.
yeah,
So instead of just subscribing to all 30 of them and as and when you need them, be a little bit more practical and functional on which e-wallet serves you best. And I think this is one way to keep our money intact and also able for us to track it in a very, very systematic and efficient manner.
yeah.
How about yourself, Rachel? What do you actually do on your end?
Actually, I was very interested when you mentioned the word purpose. I think that is the whole point of practicing minimalism. I think minimalism focuses a lot on the purpose of you keeping something or doing something. Like, if any of y'all are familiar with Marie Kondo's
Mm-hmm.
show, right? She will always ask you, this thing spark joy when you are
Yeah.
trying to organize your house, right? So
Yeah.
it's basically saying that does this thing serve a purpose in your life, right? If
That's
it
right.
does not, you should put it out,
Yes.
And I think, like, progressing from e-wallets, like, it is, I like, for me myself, I only have about 2 to 3 e-wallets that I use mainly, and it generally suits me on a average basis lah. All those ones that are very minor, like, if I only go to this place once in a month or something like that, or not even a month, once in a few months,
Yeah.
I wouldn't really subscribe to their e-wallet because it doesn't make sense for me, because I'm not a frequent user of this particular thing. So that
Precisely.
this item, maybe I might spare change to go and pay with cash, or use a debit card if they allow debit cards. So
Yeah.
so you gotta see the tools that you have with you, and know the purpose of why you're using each tool.
Yeah.
Right.
Or another thing I would say is, if you don't actually shop in those places that often, but you do actually shop there frequently enough compared to other places, what I would also do is have the e-wallet, but don't put too much money in there.
Yeah.
You know
exactly.
what I mean? I mean, you just top up as and when you really need to, which makes it rather practical as well. Because I think the most important thing we need to keep focus on is on cash flow. So cash flow is basically all about your money. How is it flowing in and out? That means whatever income you're getting and whatever expenses that you're spending on, we just want to keep that simple as well. So by having your money concentrated in tools that works well for you, that would also be another plus point in that sense. Being able to powerfully manage it within your control without having to struggle. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other, definitely by doing this, you actually spark joy as well, right? In terms of where your money is going and, how happy you're spending on certain things which matters to you. So I think this is another thing that is really important. But I think another point I'd like to also check with you, Rachel, when we talk about minimalism in finance, right? What is it actually to you?
I think it's about spending your money wisely in like what you said, just not purposeful places.
Yeah.
Which allows you to really maximize the use of your money. So, like, for example, in a house, I think a house is the best description for this. If you have a small place, right, you don't go and overload the place with too much of furniture. It seems cramped. But you can make that small place look good by changing up the wall color, or just buying maybe a sofa that can also turn into a bed, so you
Practical.
are making things very practical and functional for you. So you incorporate lesser things to your place, but you still have those benefits, and like one of the common examples today is that the books that you read, you don't actually need physical books anymore because ebooks are all there, and by you subscribing just to ebooks alone, you already save a whole shelf of books in your house. You don't have to put that in, right? So the whole key here is you're saving space, you're creating more space, and when you feel that there's more space in your room, you feel more decluttered, you feel more clear, you can your productivity increases, you feel happier. That's the whole concept of how minimalism has helped me. And when you relate it back to finance, I think it's the same thing. So if you are, for example, having 5 different e-wallets, but 2 of them is not really serving you, right? You can actually, take out money. If you can, take it out, the money from there, or, do something, prevent yourself from topping it up. And that money could actually become your savings, So you, for example, like Touch and Go is one of a very general e-wallets in Malaysia today. And you can actually use your Touch. I've seen people during Chinese New Year use Touch and Go to receive ang pao also. So
that's the new trend.
That general. It's that general. So you, when you keep your money in places like this, what happens is that you can do your budgeting, right? You can set up maybe like, for example, 500 ringgit in an e-wallet every month. So that's your budget for the month or something like that. And what do you call this? You can actually use the balance to save it into your savings. So you are centering your finances into one spot where you are able to, I realize now that I have this much savings. And then from there, you can see what kind of investments you want to do, or it gives you more opportunity lah, by you
More
just
options
having,
as well.
yeah. So actually, minimalism is a way of life, right? And the way you handle your money is also a reflection of the way you live your life,
True.
right? So that's how I feel. Look at it.
Okay. Actually, for me, there are actually few things I would like to say. Like, while ebooks is great, for me, old school, I still love the smell of books and having to flip each page. So I would say there are also many other ways to be able to do that. You don't really need to have a whole bookshelf of books or even a room full of books, right? So there are actually many ways you could do it. Like one of the creative ways I've done is through book exchange. I just exchanged a book, for example, with you, Rachel, and you have a book that you could read today and pass it on, for example. Or you could even go to certain bookshops these days. There are places that you can go and exchange for books.
Yeah.
Okay, leave the books that you don't need to read anymore over there for somebody else to benefit from it. So I think in terms of minimalism, right, what has worked very well for me, it's that it has helped me to save quite a lot of money in that sense, because not everything we have to buy new, and a lot of it, you can always recycle, right? So if we were to look back into Marie Kondo's concept of things, number one is just to keep it simple and practical. Second thing is look into community resources that you already have. Like, I know many of you don't really go to the library, but that's another place that you can get great books, right, without having to own them.
Yeah.
So
You do.
I think there are many, many solutions out there to keep the house really simple. And as you know it, when you don't have so much clutter in the house, like what Rachel said earlier, you think better. That's one thing. But the other thing, it's the free space give you breathing space. Okay. And a lot of it will also be easier on the wallet, because at the end of the day, when you don't have so many things, it means your money is able to go into other areas which matters to you, okay, financially. So I think earlier we did talk about the concept of how minimalism can really benefit you. And these are some of the things that we can really look into. So maybe I would urge everybody to kind of like sit back and give it a thought to what are some of the things that you currently have in your house that you can free up or even clear up to give you more space, and also to reorganize your life a little bit better before you start buying something again. What do you think, Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, there's apps like recently I cleared out my wardrobe because I wanted to replace it with new clothes. Yeah. So I have to get out all the old stuff first, so that's space for the new stuff. So those old stuff now I can actually, in the good condition ones, I can put it up on Carousel, and I can
pre-love items, right?
Yeah, pre-love items, and that's how I can gain back some cash to spend for my new clothes. So yeah, it's all about, it takes a bit more effort lah. When you talk about minimalism, it always does take, like exchanging books, it does take effort, but you gain so much more. You gain more savings, you gain, you even meet new friends. Like when you exchange books, you build friendships, right? So it has a lot more benefit to it lah. So nothing comes like, without effort, nothing can work. So you just have to put in that bit of effort, but the leverage part is huge.
Exactly, precisely on that. So I think in terms of the minimalism concept, right, in finance, it can also make a lot of sense for you to actually declutter, most importantly. And I think first and foremost in finance-wise, you need to know what you actually have, okay, be it like, for example, what's in the bank, or, what insurance policies you have, or maybe don't need. So all of these things is very important for us to always review our finances at any one point in time, okay?
Yeah.
Every time we always need to ask ourselves, how is this product or service working out for me? If it's actually working really well, you keep them. But if things are not working well, then the question that we want to ask ourselves is, how can I improve on this and make things better? Okay, so I think this is actually one very important concept that we learned from Marie Kondo. Ask yourself in terms of finance, what sparks joy for you? And in order to creatively, garner money in order for you to buy certain things, like what Rachel said earlier on, it's very important for us to figure out, like, if we don't need something, how can we still make dollars and cents out of it in order to still safeguard, your financial interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, also like what Pauline just mentioned, you can actually review. And before that, how often would you suggest us to review our finances, Pauline?
Okay, I think in terms of finances, ideally for whatever cash that you have, you should review it every month. Because why I would say every month is our budget every month changes due to festivities, maybe it's birthdays, or it's a month where you have to service your car, or pay your annual insurance premiums. All this will actually impact our finances on a monthly basis. So I would say for budgeting, it will be best for us to always review and to keep posted, like, for example, what are some of the key major expenses that we will need to budget for next month as well. So if we were to do this on a regular basis, on a monthly reviews, it will keep us on our toes in terms of how much we need to plan and spend, for the following month. And that makes it rather practical for us rather than having a problem with money when the month happens. Okay.
Yeah.
And we find that it's very hard for us to, budget for certain things because we totally forgot about it. So I would say we should do it on a monthly basis. But for all other finance areas, for example, your insurance, policies, I would say at least once a year to review it. And for investments, perhaps every quarter. Okay, perhaps every quarter. Okay, so these are the few areas I would say that we want to be very, very clear where the money is going to and how we're spending our money, so that every single day we're actually joyful and happy because we do have spare change in our pockets rather than strapped for money.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, also the more you track your expenses, and your finances, where things are.
Precisely.
The less stressed you are, because you're
exactly.
like, can you imagine you had to pay, or suddenly an expense comes up and you're like, the first thought in your mind will be like, oh no, do I have the savings for this? But when you regularly do it, when you regularly check your finances, it comes up easily. You know that, hey, I have this much, and under unexpected expenses, maybe you have a savings for that. So you know exactly how much is in that fund. And it doesn't feel so stressful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So I think, these are a few tips I would say that hopefully it will help you ladies out there, and also some of the gentlemen who's tuning in today. Yeah.
Yes. So with that, I think we would like to wrap up this session, as minimalism means keeping things simple. So finance, even though sometimes it can sound so scary, it's actually a very simple thing, because you deal with finances. Everybody deals with finance. So you have the right to gain that financial advantage. Don't let the term finance scare you off. It's actually a very simple process. Start small.
And I think the very important thing as well, right, is make sure whatever it is works for you. You don't have to be a me too copy and pasting it. If it doesn't work for you, it means that there should be a better way for you to manage and deal with the finances that you have. So whatever it is, if you actually, having a struggle with it, you might want to have a conversation with us, or just hashtag us SWF, and we will see how we can actually best help you solve that problem.
Exactly. So if you want more insights about this, if you want more insights on SWF, Smart Women Finance, I would invite you to join our SWF community on our Facebook group. We have a community of women as well as some gentlemen in there to give and help you with your financial journey. You can always as they say, if you want to grow in a certain area, you got to mix with people who are also growing in that area. So come along and join our community on Facebook. The link is in the description below.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you find value in this video.